Good health is not just about whether or not we have disease. It is just as much about how much we are caring for ourselves in the day-to-day. Sensory hacking is one such way we can quickly and easily influence our bodies for useful health benefits. Luckily, as humans, we have very sensitive nervous systems, which will pick up on whatever is going around us. We can almost imagine the human body a bit like a sponge. In fact, people are often surprised to hear that we share a large amount of our DNA with sponges, a whopping 70%. Us humans need to go about the world making good decisions, and the more information we acquire about our environment, the better the decisions we will be able to make. As such, our goal really is to take in as much sensory information as we can, whether it be sight, sound, smell, touch, or taste. All of these senses are providing us vital information that might tell us to make a different decision in a particular direction. Because sensing is so good for us, it's also fundamentally enjoyable. We feel good when we're sensing things, a sense of calm when we're mindful, or a sense of awe when listening to nature, for example. Sensing not only helps us with decisions, and makes us feel good though. It's also more vital for our health than most of us realize. A breakdown in our sensory abilities often precedes a number of health conditions. For example, there is a strong link between a lack of sense of smell and depression, and improving that sense of smell can often greatly help some people with the condition. Likewise, often the first sign of Alzheimer's is in fact a breakdown in either someone's sense of smell or hearing. In the UK, it is now policy to quickly give older people with the first signs of hearing loss a hearing aid to prevent Alzheimer's, and it has shown to have been quite effective in reducing disease rates. Evidently, our senses are really important to us, and it's vital that our senses are intact. Though, it's not just about whether or not our senses are working in the first place, it's also the particular stimulation that they're receiving. The first thing that is important here is having the right level of stimulation. In this day and age, for example, some of our senses are thoroughly overstimulated. Particularly our higher-order senses, or our sight and sound. We're on screens constantly, and in cities and towns there's noise constantly. We're also stressing out our noses, having to deal with modern-day levels of air pollution. We've got to make sure we're not stressing out our nervous system to the point where it can't perceive what we need it to later. What's also important to note is that we need varied stimulation. The way our sensory nervous system works is it only perceives change. Everything that is constant is blurred out in the background. The reason we can no longer feel the clothes we put on earlier in the morning comes down to exactly this. Even if we were to hear a loud pitched sound every 5 seconds, we would eventually filter it out and not even know it was there. Consequently, what's key to our senses being stimulated properly is not just not overstimulating them, but also not stimulating them with a constant flurry of the same thing. We need breaks, and so does our nervous system. Another interesting thing more recently discovered about our senses is that the combination of things we are stimulated by is really key. Particularly, we want to be ensuring that everything is congruent, or in other words, matches together. Our body doesn't like it when, for example, all we're seeing through our eyes is nature, whilst through our ears we hear something contrasting like industrial noise. Our body doesn't like to be confused by the mismatch. This is exactly what happens during motion sickness. As we're traveling in a vehicle, our eyes are telling us information that doesn't match with what our balanced senses in our ears are telling us. The result is we feel nauseous. And it's exactly the same process when we feel sick, for example due to a virus. The virus messes with our senses, mismatching them and consequently making us feel like puking. On the flip side, when we actively seek to make our senses match, it feels good to us. Listening to, for example, a happy song when we're feeling happy can boost our mood even further, and even be good for our health. Importantly, we must also pay attention to whether or not we have enough stimulation in the first place. While our sight and sound are stimulated too much in the present day, some senses like touch and smell are far too understimulated. Even when we look at novels in the modern day compared to ones written 50 years ago, traditionally authors might for example describe a place by the smell of the flowers, but today there is almost no mention of smells when describing scenes. We also spend much of our time indoors and not exercising nowadays, reducing much more of our sensory interactions. But sensory stimulation is so important, and in fact, so essential to our health and mental well-being, that sensory deprivation is used as a torture method. Our brains cannot function even for a few minutes without stimulation. Our neurons will start dying off very quickly without it. As a result, when we can't get external stimulation from outside, our brains will scramble together to stimulate themselves internally. We'll daydream, have visions, or visualize things that happened already to keep it together. Sensory deprivation will eventually lead to psychosis. Stimulation plays a huge role in our mental health, in more than one way. In general, the more sensory stimulation the better, as long as we're not too overstimulated or mismatched with it. It is, of course, providing us with that vital information for making our decisions. But it's also doing more than that. Our brain works in two directions, top-down and bottom-up. Top-down is all about the old things. We're focused on the predictions of what's happening in the future, and we're predicting it based on the past. We see things in the frame of and in the context of whatever happened before. Bottom-up is when we're taking in new information and rewiring all of that. When we're mindful, stimulating our senses, and paying attention, we're in the bottom-up process, and it's a far better place to be for our mental and physical health. Knowing how our sensory system works in detail is the key to understanding how we can hijack it. If our sensory system is taking in information in order to make better decisions, we can alter the information it takes in order to hopefully make it make a better decision. The most widely known example probably being the placebo effect, where taking a fake drug, but being told it is real, has been shown to have a substantial impact on the body. These effects can be very powerful in medicine. Recently, for example, there was a study into the effectiveness of stents used to widen blood vessels and help with angina, or heart pain, and the conclusion found was that the positive benefit of a stent came almost exclusively down to the placebo effect. Likewise, a recent study that looked into factors most associated with death from cardiovascular disease found that subjective age was key. It wasn't the hospital care or even diet, but the subjective age that people felt. If they felt older, they were more likely to die, and if they felt younger, they were more likely to survive. Homeopathy is another example of the placebo effect, a widely used alternative medicine where the body is tricked into generating particular actions by introducing a very small amount of a substance. Sometimes sense hacking can be simple and quick things too. Just smiling can make you more efficient at running, and listening to music greatly boosts your performance. Then when it comes to weight loss, eating from a red plate can make you eat less, whilst eating from a blue plate can make you eat more. In fact, in some hospitals, where elderly patients weren't eating enough food, blue plates have been shown to successfully tackle this. Smell is also a really powerful sense linked to appetite. When we cut off our smell, this can superboost your ability to lose weight. Another one is blue light in the morning, which is a natural part of sunlight, can seemingly help increase alertness, and being amongst less air pollution can increase focus. Actually, when you look at maps of cities and their air pollution, the areas with more air pollution have higher crime rates. Likewise, tasting something sweet can boost performance and reduces pain, and relaxing scents can help both sleep and skincare. In fact, one study into an anti-wrinkle skincare brand found that the real reason they were anti-wrinkle was not due to the ingredients, but due to the relaxing effect of the product's scent. Peppermint oil is another powerful scent, shown to help athletes run faster, and walking on natural surfaces like sand, hay, or small rocks has been shown to reduce blood pressure. One of the most powerful sensory hacks to note is a cold shower, which has been shown to reduce days off sick by almost 30%, and hot saunas or soaks, which are common practice in Scandinavia, have a powerful effect on sleep, inflammation, heart attacks and stroke prevention. Our interactions with others can be useful too, as warm physical touch has been shown to release both endorphins and oxytocin, which help with both pain and infection. Though, the most powerful sensory stimulator is nature. Stimulation from nature is dose-dependent. The more time we spend in nature, the more health benefits we get out of it. And likewise, the more senses we have stimulated by nature, again the more health benefits. It is better for us if we stimulate our sight, sound and smell by nature than, let's say, just our touch. We could touch natural objects, smell natural scents, especially lemon and pine, which have been shown to be most powerful, look at nature, or hear it, like paying attention to the sounds of the birds. Nature is so good for us because it's a major attention grabber. We're intrigued by nature's patterns and diversity. But also, nature is something we can process predictably and congruently. All the sounds, sights, and smells match with each other, meeting our desire for sensory congruence. They're also all predictable. We know what nature looks like, and what patterns it will appear in, which allows our brains to relax a little. And because it is so good for us, nature-based sensory hacking has become commonplace in some countries. In Japan, for example, they do something called forest bathing, where it's common practice to go immerse yourself in a forest for health benefits. Nature can help us reduce our fatigue, improve our executive function, which is our ability to make decisions, and can help you heal faster. In some hospitals, they've even experimented with putting pictures of nature in hospital rooms along with playing sounds of seagulls, and it's been shown to reduce the time that people needed to get better. So, sensory hacking doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes it's as simple as a little playlist or a picture, but it can be a really powerful tool to help you get better.